Māori are some of the biggest players in the dairy market, and despite the odds and century-long lease arrangements, Parininihi ki Waitōtara is building a dairy empire.
Reporter Yvonne Tahana went to talk to Taranaki's largest supplier to Fonterra to find out why they're not worried about the downturn.
These cows don't appreciate the view. But for the last decade, there's been a quiet revolution going on underneath Taranaki.
I still think that PKW is actually still quite a young business and is still growing. So the things that the incorporation's achieved since it was established, in my view, are quite phenomenal, actually.
It's a bullish attitude given Taranaki isn't the land of milk and money right now. Farmers are staring down the barrel of the worst dairy season of the century. They're set to receive just $3.85 per kilogram of milk solids. For many, that won't even cover the cost of putting cups on cows. For Parininihi ki Waitōtara, that's about half the payout it received 2 years ago. Last year, PKW produced 3 million kgs of milk solids, and out of more than 10,000 suppliers to Fonterra, it's in the top 20. The country's twisted itself up in knots over the lower payout. Much of the reaction's been wasted energy, Dion believes, especially as prices are now on the rise.
If you get into dairy farming and think, oh, I'm losing money this year, I'm out of here, then you shouldn't be in that business, you know. Most Māori landowners will understand is that, you know, prices go up, prices go down, and we're just in a down, you know. You don't run for the hills at the first sign of trouble.
In Auckland, home isn't very far from Hinerangi Raumati's mind.
The wider community are able to see the success, and they take the success that we have and they all get to reflect in it. You know, our success actually helps build businesses in Taranaki, helps sustain businesses, keeps that wider industry working, you know, building dairy sheds that cost millions of dollars, you know, building new dairy platforms and new farms helps keep the rest of the industry going as well. And so, so everything that we've done over the last 10 years, I think has built a better place and status for PKW.
Much of Taranaki's farming industry was built on confiscated Māori land. In the 19th century, a system of perpetual leases at peppercorn rates to Pākehā settlers was introduced. In the 1990s, the government moved to raise rents to market levels.
It was given to the Pākehās to break in and look after 21 years. No one wanted to do it.
The land being given to...
no one wanted to do anything.
The land was stolen from Māori. The land was stolen from Māori. The government's already admitted that.
Tempers ran short in Wellington today as Taranaki farmers took their tractors to Parliament. They're protesting against a law change that gives Māori leaseholders the right to charge farmers market rates.
Was there racism? I think there always has been and there always will be, but we're a better society today than I think we were before. And so people understand now. I'd like to think that the wider community, as well as the Māori community, understand today that we should all be successful rather than just some of us. And if we're not all successful, then in essence it means that some of us are going to be disadvantaged. And that's no good for the New Zealand society in the long term.
PKW is now worth between 250 to 300 million. It's moved from being a landlord into actively farming 14 of its own farms. To do that, it had to buy up perpetual leases on its own land.
I think when I started at PKW, it was 350 odd leases in total, and I think we now own at least 50 of them outright. It's that kind of scale, so the investment's significant. Taranaki land doesn't get any cheaper. People have talked to me recently, have said to me, there must be lots of opportunities now, you know, to benefit of maybe someone else's misfortune. I think from my perspective, I'm not really looking to do that. I don't think that's a good thing. But I've also never seen Taranaki land values drop. And so I don't think there are going to be any bargains out there, really.
When you go to the shops and you buy your Anchor milk,
yeah,
and it's high prices, what do you think? You are a winner both ways, aren't you?
You know, I do look at the prices. I do look at the prices, but I try to buy Anchor just like I try to buy Sea Lord.
Māori agribusinesses' long-term outlook serves them well during shocks, analysts say.
Māori agribusinesses have a couple of key advantages. Firstly, many have more conservative levels of borrowing, so it means that at times like this where we see a low dairy payout, they're in a much better position to absorb those pressures. Secondly, Māori agribusinesses are typically involved in a whole wide range of areas, so rather than being solely dairy or sheep and beef, they're often both, and in many cases they will also have other interests like forestry, fisheries or property. And so having that really diversified basket of assets means that, again, they're well positioned to deal with market pressures like we're seeing now.
One of the ironies about perpetual leases, there's a $6.5 million income stream that in this downturn will actually help to smooth out the bumpy economic ride.
During downtimes like this, leases are very good things to have. I think the challenge with leases, they're an overhang from confiscation. So they're viewed by many people as a tool of colonial oppression, right? The real tragedy of perpetual leases is the fact that they denied the owners of the land the right to use their own land, right? And that cannot be understated.
And while China's appetite for our milk products has decreased massively, PKW and other farmers have one fundamental on their side.
I'm not worried about China because human beings need to eat, and land is a key to producing food. Whether it be dairy products, whether it be horticultural products, land is key to food production.
Last year, PKW made an $11 million profit, helped in part by diversified interests including beef farming and fisheries. Will you make a profit this year?
At the group level, yes. The farming business will be challenged, but at the group level, the incorporation will make a profit.
There is huge admiration for those who fought for PKW in its early days.
I think the people who advocated for its establishment were visionary. In what I would describe as a hostile environment towards Māori aspiration, they fought hard and succeeded in getting Parininihi ki Waitōtara established. I think we're privileged to be the recipients of their hard work. Yeah.
Early tomorrow morning, PKW will be back in the milking shed, building a brighter future on its own land for generations to come.
And PKW says if they controlled 100% of their land, they'd have the capacity to produce 10 to 14 million kgs of milk solids, pushing them into the top 3 dairy producers. As it is, they only control 15% of their lands.